Hello, and welcome back to our channel Rolling Movie Recaps. Today, we are going to explain an American sci-fi thriller film called Spiderhead, which was released this year, 2022. The story of the film is about two inmates who form a connection while grappling with their pasts in a state-of-the-art penitentiary run by a brilliant visionary who experiments on his subjects with mind-altering drugs. To know the story in full detail, watch the video till the end. But before we begin, beware of spoilers, watch out and take care. And I hope you enjoy the video. The film opens with a volunteer named Dre, who is going through a Spiderhead clinical trial. This trial is conducted by Steve Abnesti, the supposed head of the Spiderhead program, and his partner Mark. They tell Ray a joke and he laughs at the joke as usual. But they also tell him about a drastic event in which many people died, but Ray still keeps laughing. Steve and Mark then celebrate since their trial is now successful. This program is overseen and regulated by a protocols committee and is made up of former inmates with a violent history. It is not a penitentiary because of the ease of access to different places in the lush building by the participants. They can even enter Steve's room without prior notice. Steve, along with Mark, experiments with various enhancing drugs that have distinct properties. While one can make you horny, another can make you violent. Jeff, a participant in the program, is closer to Steve than other patients due to his more likable and conducive traits. Steve tests a drug on Jeff and the drug is called Den-40. They blindfold him and take him somewhere. They give him the drug through his Mobipack. The colorful thing we see attached to the back of the participants is called the Mobipack. It is the device that is used to administer or drip the drugs into the blood of the participants. Mark is supposed to refill the pack with vials of the different drugs each night. When they take off the blindfold, Jeff discovers everything to be colorful as he remembers Lizzie, a woman he likes who is also a volunteer. Steve comes and asks Jeff about what he is feeling as he expresses that everything he sees is extraordinary before he is again blindfolded and taken back to the research center. There, late at night, Jeff has a flashback in which it is revealed that Jeff is a convict serving time for manslaughter after he crashed a car while driving drunk, killing his friend. But he chooses not to go to a regular prison. He chooses to volunteer for this prison, where he is allowed to roam free in the halls, where he's served good food, and where there are no guards. But the price for all of this is that Jeff and all the other prisoners must partake in human drug trials for some decidedly experimental pharmaceuticals. This includes a drug that makes you laugh over tragedies, a drug that makes you see beauty in everything, and a drug that makes you fall in love. All of these trials are overseen by the boss, Steve, and Steve's assistant, Verlaine, who insist it is all for the greater good. One day, Jeff is put in a trial with another test subject, Heather. Steve asks both of them about what they think about each other, or how much they would give each other out of 10. Jeff gives her 7.5 while he receives a 5 out of 10 from her. This clearly proves that Heather does not find Jeff attractive in any way. But when both prisoners are given a dose of Den-40 or Luvactin, though they have never met before, Jeff and Heather instantly fall in love and get wildly intimate in front of them. They even cuddle when it's over. This is because it is the love drug, and the special characteristic of the drug is that it makes your horny quotient even more inclined to act upon your instincts. There are also hallucinogenic properties to it that make the surroundings of the participant much more mesmerizing than they actually are. Steve tells Mark to keep an eye on Jeff and Heather because he wants to see what happens between the two when the drug wears off. Later, Jeff goes with Lizzie as both of them distribute food to every prisoner, while Jeff comes face to face with Heather. Then Steve repeats the same experiment with Jeff and another woman, Sarah, who is older and less attractive. The results are the same. The drug makes Jeff fall in love with this woman, as they also get intimate. Steve speculates that this drug has the potential to help people who are unable to make love. Later, Mark refills Jeff's Mobipack, as he suggests that he should not let anyone touch his Mobipack during the trial, or else he will have to face consequences. As Mark leaves, Jeff tells him that he does not want to work in the kitchen with Lizzie and asks Mark to assign him a new job. For the next trial, Steve brings Jeff into the mission control room with him. In the observation room sits Heather and Sarah, the two women that Jeff slept with while he was drugged. Steve tells Jeff that He is testing to see if Jeff has any residual feeling of affection for either woman, now that the drug has worn off. Steve just wants to make sure if the drug makes a person develop temporary feeling or permanent feelings for another person. This is why he tells Jeff that one of the women will be injected with Darkenfloxx, a drug that causes unspeakable pain, and that Jeff must choose which woman will get it. Steve does this to see if Jeff, who had feelings for both the women, will have feelings for them now. But Jeff says he does not want either woman to be drugged, and that if he were forced to choose, the decision would be random. Steve accepts the fact that his drug does not make a person develop permanent feelings for someone, and both of the women are not drugged. Meanwhile, when he is not participating in these trials, Jeff has been getting more friendly with Lizzie. But, apparently, he has a wife that Steve lets him call. On every Friday, the guards come and take Jeff away and they let him talk to his wife. We see Jeff leave a voicemail for her and get the impression she is not taking his calls. In the voicemail, Jeff talks about Lizzie. Then, Jeff pretends to be a Santa and gives Lizzie a Christmas gift, but they are not sure if it is Christmas because they are far from civilization and in a research facility. For the next trial, Jeff is in the observation room as another man comes and sits with him. Jeff gets exceedingly nervous and says that he will not do this, implying that he cannot do it with a man. But Steve calms him down by ensuring that nothing sexual will happen between him and the other man, that is with him in the observation room. After a while, Steve tells both of them to leave. The other man leaves, but Jeff clearly understands what is going on. Jeff, infuriated with this, goes into the control room and sees Heather. Jeff asks Heather if Steve asked her to choose between Jeff and the other man and who gets the drug. Heather confirms by saying that Steve did ask her that, but he tells Heather to leave. Jeff is very angry with Steve as an argument begins. Steve mentions that he does not make the rules and that he is given strict orders by the protocol committee. He tells Jeff that he has freedom in this prison and in return he just has to cooperate with them. When Steve and Mark leave, Mark also seems to be disturbed by all of these experiments and he decides to take a week off. Later on, Steve brings Jeff into the mission control room with him. This time, it's just Heather in the observation room. Absini says that, while Jeff's insistence that he wasn't in love with either Heather or Sarah was good enough for him, the committee wants to see Jeff's reaction to Heather on Darkenfloxx. Jeff watches Heather as she is tortured, but then Heather accidentally breaks her Mobipack, the device that administers her drugs. Steve is unable to back off the Darkenfloxx, and Heather kills herself in the observation room. While Steve runs to deal with Heather, Jeff snoops in his drawers. He discovers a letterhead that shows this is Steve's company, meaning the higher-ups that he keeps blaming do not exist. He also discovers a bingo card with gold stars on it that correlate to the names of the drugs, N40, I16, and B6, suggesting that Steve is just making this up as he goes along like a mad scientist. After Heather's death, Steve and Jeff get high on the laughing drug together. Steve confesses to Jeff that his parents abandoned him to foster care when he was 8 years old. Later, Jeff and Lizzie discuss why they keep saying yes or acknowledge to being drugged. Jeff confesses that he killed his wife in that drunk driving incident, and then Jeff and Lizzie sleep together. After he witnesses them mirroring each other's language, Steve realizes that Jeff and Lizzie have fallen in love. Steve calls Jeff into the mission control room to watch as Lizzie is given Darkenfloxx, but Jeff refuses to say acknowledge. The next day, back in the observation room, Lizzie tells him to get it over with and confesses her crime. She forgot about her baby in a hot car and killed her own baby. Then Steve abruptly starts laughing. Jeff reveals that he had Verlaine, the assistant, drug Steve's Mobipack. Jeff now controls Steve's fate. Jeff gives Steve a big dose of Darkenfloxx, then explains that he figured it out. Steve was never testing all these other drugs. He was testing an obedience drug, B6. Steve was trying to see how far he could push the prisoners to obey. Steve admits this is true. They were testing for absolute obedience. But Steve said B6 failed because Jeff proved that if you love something enough, you can disobey. Steve, using this same logic, overpowers the drugs in his system because he either loves someone or his company very much. Jeff and Steve tussle, and Steve damages his mobipack. The drugs in his system go haywire. Jeff rescues Lizzie, and the two escape the prison. The police are on their way, but Steve escapes too, via his private water jet. But the drugs are still going wild in Steve's system. One of the drugs that we saw Jeff on at the beginning of the movie, the one that made him see a nuclear wasteland as a beautiful landscape, makes Steve see a sunset where he should have seen a mountainside. Steve thinks he's flying off into the sunset, but in reality, he crashes into a cliff. Jeff and Lizzie watch the crash as they escape in the speedboat. Jeff muses in a voiceover that he wishes there were a self-forgiveness drug, but that there isn't. So we're gonna have to do it for ourselves, Jeff concludes. And with that, this movie ends. To watch more explanations of these kinds of movies, click on the videos on your screen. And don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. Kindly like the video and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. And at last, I will say, stay safe, stay well, and thanks for watching.